Alright, and we are live. Hello, and welcome to Polygons and Pixels, where I, Lycan Starr, yap about just that. Polygons and Pixels. We will cover everything from latest game releases, to animation I find quite alright, to what companies could be doing better. So for today, we will be covering why I believe Elio flopped so hard. I will first be reading an essay I wrote for my college discussion board assignment at Full Sail University. Then we will be yapping about why I specifically dislike CalArts art style so much. Finally, we will go over some art styles that I love, both 3D and 2D. The film that I have chosen to dissect is the 2025 film Elio from Pixar Studios. This movie was touted as the last original Pixar animation, so understandably people were holding this film to a higher standard than previous animations. Obviously, all things that burn out have a grand finale, correct? However, as we will explore, this was not the case with Elio. According to sites like Slashfilm, Elio's failure was due to a combination of things. One of the biggest reasons was the lack of promotion for the movie. After all, I cannot recall seeing a single item of marketing for this movie. For whatever reason, Disney may have been convinced that this movie wasn't worth investing in an overly expensive blanket global marketing campaign like the one for Moana 2 or Inside Out 2. This was a quote taken from Slashfilm's Why Elio Flopped So Hard article, which is what actually inspired me to choose Elio for this assignment. Disney and Pixar had just tossed this movie aside like it wasn't important. Part of this could be what is known as the Disney Plus effect, which we have seen with recent Disney releases. It's hard to define exactly what this effect is, as most sources on it have been minimized due to Disney being such a big name. They are in the news all the time. If we want to really see what this effect is, we'll have to go back to when it was first coined, and I can't give you an exact date on when it was first coined. Essentially what this effect is people's mindsets changing to, I watch this movie in theaters when it will be on Disney Plus in a week. In a November 2021 article on The Vindicator, Kara Robbins outlines Disney's strategy. 1. Release new episodes weekly. 2. Treat releases as events. 3. Expanding on existing universes. Essentially, what this means is that every time they release a new episode, they create a huge hype around it. And by doing these episodes that they're releasing weekly and creating this huge hype, people will be like, oh, Disney Plus is really quick to get things on their platform, it's not even worth seeing it in theaters. And expanding on existing universes means that most of the stuff that they've put out in the past, however many years it's been since Disney Plus came out, is spin-off series. For example, shows like Marvel's Loki, WandaVision, I think they did something with Monsters, Inc. too. I'm not sure. I'm not on Disney Plus all the time. Now that we have discussed what went wrong with Elio and why sales were so poor, now we'll get into what Disney and Pixar could have done. For starters, they could have done so much more marketing. Remember when we were kids and couldn't escape the latest Disney movie? I remember going to McDonald's and the toys would be Disney. If you went to Walmart or Target, the Disney toys were always on display and featured prominently. Hell, even at Build-A-Bear, where I currently work, we never got an Elio bear, which you would think we would get an Elio bear because even movies that aren't that hyped got bears. Build-A-Bear used to be the number one spot to get the latest promotional items. With Elio, there's just nothing. Stores that did get Elio merch would just toss it with the rest of the toys. There's no Elio clothing, which is also a huge marketing opportunity. Now, for fixing the Disney Plus effect, admittedly, this is a lot more difficult, as it is a mindset people have. This is something you can't really fix, but we can take Disney's third strategy with Disney Plus and apply it to theaters as well. If we can somehow make these releases spectacular, huge, maybe people would ditch Disney Plus and attend those events. We'll use my mall, my local mall, Franklin Park Mall, the mall that I work in, as an example. Now, music is a completely different world, but I feel as though this still applies because it is giving what Elio needed. Anticipation. This does go hand in hand with marketing, but what Franklin Park Mall is currently doing is creating anticipation for none other than Kids Bop on tour. Kids Bop is still going on tour. Kids Bop, unfortunately, still exists. Throughout the mall, they have these little picture cards posted with a QR code you can see in. These QR codes unlock certain Kids Bop songs you can add to your music streaming app. They are creating that anticipation by doing by doing the public a sort of service. You buy into their marketing, you get the song. The same could have been done for Elio. You scan the QR code, you get exclusive content. What this would mean for Disney is something like, you scan the QR code, you get like a little video from the animators on behind the scenes. You come to a specific theater to see Elio, you get an exclusive popcorn bucket, or something like that. How would this affect current and future employees, however? Disney would certainly have to either hire new marketers and designers for this marketing on, or delegate more work to current employees. Disney is a huge company and so is Pixar. Both companies have more than enough money to hire more team members. All they need is a designated creative marketing team that isn't a bunch of men in suits. Because as we know, men in suits ruin everything. They could also bring in focus groups to see how effective the marketing they come up with is. This way, the animators and character designers don't get burnt out, and they could create new jobs in the creative industry. This is especially needed with the rise of artificial intelligence and how it is taking over marketing. Personally, I'd rather see the mistakes of a marketing team than the perfection, quote-unquote, of a robot. As for the current employees, an expanded team would help them divide the workload better. They could also nominate someone to go to those marketing meetings to get an opportunity from an actual employee and to get an opinion from an actual employee instead of men in suits dictating what people want to see. Especially for a family-friendly company like Disney, this would prove exceptionally helpful. How would this affect future employees? I believe my presented solution would cause less people to quit, as this team I have envisioned would ideally be swapped out so different perspectives can come to the table. If you are getting burnt out with doing your art job, you can join this marketing team and send someone who needs a break from marketing to do art. In an ideal situation, this team would constantly swap out and give people a well-deserved break. If we have less people burnt out, we have less people quitting, and less notable animation differences. What I'm talking about is like how you could tell at some point there was a turn in Disney's animation style where it was like going from one spot and everything looked cool to what we have today. You can see there's that big difference right there. It would also give different walks of life the chance to work together. Ideally, this team would see different generations, sexualities, gender identities, and political views a chance to work together. I believe that would get the employees out of the vacuum chamber, which allows for more meaningful work. In case you've been living under a rock and you do not know what a vacuum chamber is, we will get into that later. It would also help with the anticipation factor. If we can get employees excited to work together, we can get the public excited for the next project as well. Maybe not in a we are family way, like toxic companies do. But like in the Build-A-Bear workshop way, where I was told when I started, we're all best friends here. We look out for each other, but also understand that we can get a break from each other if we need one. This mentality not only will helps my mental health, but it would be beneficial to future employees with any team as well. Now that we have read that entire essay, I will explain to you really quick what a vacuum chamber is. So, Google defines a vacuum chamber as, hold on, let me pull that up real quick because all I'm getting is actual vacuum chambers. Vacuum chamber definition. Politics. Okay. Urban Dictionary defines a vacuum chamber as a community with people where people with similar ideas congregate and bounce identical or nearly identical ideas back and forth in order to reaffirm their beliefs without facing outside opposition. Now, why can this be harmful? You may be thinking, oh, it's great, like-minded people working together. But if you have people who are too like-minded, that fear-mongering grows. And what I mean by that fear-mongering grows is, I mean that, well, if the left or the right or the center or wherever you align with is saying that, oh, this side of the spectrum is perpetrating this propaganda and they're evil and they're going to do this and it's all going to go to shit in a couple of years. That can be, damaging. Because if you actually look it up and you'll be like, oh, this is what this means, this bill isn't gonna take away our right to breathe. All this bill is saying is that we need regulations for car exhaust and that the oxygen needs to be purified. We need to emit less greenhouse gases. You see how extreme that can be construed in a vacuum chamber? This is why this is not good for people. Now we are going to discuss why I hate CalArts art style. CalArts art style is hated for good reason, in my opinion. It's just tiring. It's seen everywhere these days, and I'd like to see something visually more appealing. Adventure Time, not Steven Universe, like most people think it was. Adventure Time actually started this fiasco. What happened was a bunch of these cartoons pulled from Adventure Time's animation style, and then you have people pulling from their animation style, and then it eventually branches off until it becomes this one big circle where every character has a bean-shaped face and a bean-shaped mouth. There's not too much else to say on CalArts. It's just there's a lot of same face syndrome going on there, and I'd personally like to see differences. Differences in face shape and mouth shape versus just bean head, bean mouth. Now we'll discuss some of my personal favorite art styles. Beatles cartoon. Now, this was a cartoon that ran from the 60s, and I believe it had a rerun in the 80s. But the art style, even though it's the same art style, is very distinctive. You can tell John from Paul, from Ringo, from George, and you can tell who it is, and you can identify them. That's not very, well, obviously you can identify different characters, but say you have a blonde bean-headed character from CalArts and then another blonde bean-headed character from CalArts, and the only difference is one has a mole on their nose. Unless you were looking exactly on that mole on their nose, you'd think they were the same character. Next we have Futurama and The Simpsons, which can kind of be seen as okay, they look the same, which is understandable because it's Matt Groening and his art team doing all the artwork. But I'm going to look specifically more at Futurama, where a character like Zoidberg looks nothing like a character like Bender, who looks nothing like Leela, who, even though she looks similar to Fry, Fry has a more pronounced overbite. And even though Fry has that overbite like Professor Farnsworth does, Professor Farnsworth has a longer nose. These characters all look different from one another, so we can tell who they are. Another one is Family Guy. Now, Family Guy tends to have the same boring adult animation style that you see in Family Guy, American Dad, not so much King of the Hill, but like the Cleveland Show. What else can we put in there? I think it's really just Family Guy, American Dad, Cleveland Show. But I believe, again, that's the same team working on all three, but don't quote me on that. I just believe it is. That art style is very much what you think of when you think of adult animation. Obviously, you can think King of the Hill, which I don't really count as adult animation, because even though there's adult themes, children can still enjoy it. And Bob's Burgers, again, children can still enjoy that. That's like, those are two art styles that stick out in this niche. But when you think of adult animation, you automatically go to that Family Guy art style. And there's just something so beautiful about the simplicity that nothing is shaded, but you can still tell these characters are meant to be in a 3D realm. It's just beautiful to me. Now we're going to go into our 3D art styles. We have the first film that really touched me, which was Rapunzel. I remember seeing Rapunzel when I was a little kid and being like, oh my god, this is a beautiful film. You can see what was taken from Rapunzel's original story. And this is why I miss this era of Disney princesses with you, Disney. You can see where they took elements from where Rapunzel is originally supposed to be from, which I think she came out of Germany. But you can see the elements of where she lives, of course, and then you can also see the elements that Disney created. It comes together and it meshes beautifully. Next two are two that I haven't personally seen, but aesthetically, from what I have seen of them, I do like the way they are made. First one in that category is going to be K-pop Demon Hunters. Now, I haven't watched K-pop Demon Hunters because I don't have a Netflix subscription. But just seeing the way that the characters look in a world full of bean faces, it's just like, oh my god, keep doing what you're doing. I beg of you, animation studio, make more of this. Plus, it's about a band, and that's kick-ass. They hunt demons. And then the final one is going to be the Smurfs, specifically the 2025 Smurfs movie. Because even though they do kind of have a little bit of that 3D CalArts style in there, you must understand that when working in the 3D, your options are more limited. Because even if you have like a perfectly human-shaped mouth, that's going to be hard to animate. Because each time you need a different mouth shape, you gotta manipulate polygons and everything, and it's just, speaking from experience, it's not fun at all. 3D animation is the only animation style where I excuse a bean mouth, because the bean mouth is the easiest mouth to work with. Anyway, I think that's where I'm gonna wrap it up for tonight. I will be trying to post weekly, keyword trying. And then other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night. Thank you for listening to me yapping. And I will see you guys next week.